Hello and welcome to Lauren's English Corner. In today's lesson we're going to be looking at quantifiers. Now quantifiers are the small words that we use before nouns if we want to show the number, the amount, how many nouns we're talking about. And a noun is an object or a thing. So for example, we'll start with the easiest one, the most common one. If we are talking about one singular noun, we have to use a. Now, a is actually called an article, but it still gives us the same idea as a quantifier, because if we use a, we know that it means one. Now, when we use a before a noun, we have to remember to put it before every singular noun. For example, if we're giving a list, in my kitchen, I have got a cooker, a fridge, a microwave, a toaster, a kettle. So before every item in our kitchen, we need to say a. And we also need to make sure we write it. Now, sometimes in my experience, when people are learning English, often the a can be left off, especially when writing lists. Now, one of the reasons this might be is because it actually changes when it's spoken. In English, we often, especially with smaller words, we tend to shorten the sound. So sometimes, if you're not listening carefully, it almost sounds as if we're not saying it. So if we go back again to the example of a list, if I was to say it slowly, you would hear the a. I have got a laptop, a car, and a mobile phone. However, when we say the sentence quickly and when we're speaking naturally, the a sound becomes a, and we join it with the sound of the next word. So if the word is car, the a joins to the c, k, a car. Just a car. So that sentence would sound like, I have got a car, a laptop, and a mobile phone. A car, a laptop, and a mobile phone. So you can hear that the sound of the a is very short. It's just a sound, but it still is pronounced. And if you want to speak correctly, then you still need to make that sound. And also make sure that when you're writing, you use a for every singular noun. So what about if there's a little amount, a small amount? We can use the word a few, or some. Now we use these words, these quantifiers, when we're not saying the exact number. It might be because we don't know, or it might be because it's not important how many. For example, you might say to somebody, oh, there are some pens on the table over there. You haven't stopped to count every single pen, so you don't know if there's 4 or 5 pens. And it's also not important because perhaps the person just wants 1 pen. So you say to them, there are some pens over there on the table. You could use a few as well with a very similar meaning. So for example, a few people came, it wasn't very busy. A few people came, it wasn't very busy. So these two quantifiers, a few and some, we use for when it's a small amount, a small number, but we don't know the exact number. On a side note, if we say quite a few, if we add that word quite a few, it actually means a lot. It means a high number. So if we were to say quite a few people came, it was very busy. Yes, quite a few people came. It was very busy. So what quantifiers can we use for if it's a higher number, a higher amount? We can say a lot of, we can say many, or we can say plenty of. All of these have a very similar meaning. We use it for when there is a high number of things, of nouns. So, for example, we could say, London has a lot of parks and many interesting places to visit. London has a lot of parks and many interesting places to visit. Or another example with plenty of, you could say, come, sit down here on the sofa, there's plenty of space. Come, sit with us on the sofa, there's plenty of space, plenty of room. So these are the expressions we use for if the number is high, the amount is high. And again, we don't know the exact number. We haven't counted all the parks in London. We just know that there are a lot, there are many. Now this brings me to another common mistake that I find my students make, and that's the use of too many and too much. The difference between many and much is to do with countable and uncountable nouns, which we can discuss in a future lesson. But we use many if we can count the nouns, if it's a countable noun, and we use much if it's uncountable, like a liquid. So we would say, how much water would you like? And many, how many apples would you like? But as I said, we'll discuss the difference between many and much in a later lesson. However, if we get back to the word too many and too much, what I've heard before is students say things like, I have too many friends, or I like my area because there are too many parks. Now, why is this incorrect? Well, because too many and too much are only to be used in the negative form, in a negative meaning. So because having friends, lots of friends, is a good thing, we wouldn't say too many friends. We would just say, I have many friends, or I have a lot of friends. We also wouldn't say there are too many parks, because again, this is a positive thing. So only use too much or too many in the negative way. For example, the traffic was so bad, there was just too many cars on the road. Or, I couldn't find you, there were too many people. Or, there is too much pollution in the city. Or, sorry, that is too expensive. It's too much money. So that's an example of the correct use of too many and too much. So just be careful not to use them when you want to mean it in a positive way. If you wanted to add to the word many, and but also keep it in a positive way, you could say so many. I have so many friends. Or thank you so much. So in both of these cases, it is used in a positive way. So rather than say to, use the word so if you want to try and make it higher or stronger. Okay, so that's our short lesson on quantifiers. Use of a for a singular noun, a few, some for a small amount, and a lot of, many, plenty of for a high number or high amount. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to comment, like and subscribe. See you next time.